Hi, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new album from 3776, pronounced, I hope this is how it's pronounced, Saijiki. Yeah. The first track starts out with some countdown sounding mantra that actually is kind of like a thematic thing. It's in every song in the album, and it kind of goes over some reflective vocals to begin with. The song then transitions into like a kind, soft rock song with a noticeable but laid back guitar lead. I think the vocal refrain is pretty good. I like how they kind of cascade over each other while there's some like new age like sounds in the background. After that, the song kind of cools down into like a minimalist IDM-ish sound before raising the tempo that leads into the next track. I do think it's a solid opener that doesn't show its hand too much, but I feel like there should have been a bit more, but it's still a pretty good opener. The second track has a nice electronic groove to it with some laid back vocals, while the mantra still echoes in each channel. The song halfway through switches up the tempo with some more urgent drums before it expands into a more fuller sound. It utilizes some keys, some chords, and a few more layers of backing instrumentation. It also has some bird samples and a soft woodwind in the back as well. And it's a pretty nice improvement over the first track. I feel like it's a very upbeat track. It has a nice spunk to it, and the vocal melody here is pretty stung too. The third track here is a direct continuation of the groove and instrumental of the previous track. It tries a pretty cool idea where the groove slowly is like being seemingly forced out of the track to supplement the new one, but it keeps popping in and out at will before it goes quietly. I think it's a pretty nice touch. It then transitions into some soft acoustics, which sounds like a morphed modular synth in the background, kind of squeegeeing in and out, while also incorporating more nature samples, primarily chirping. And I think the vocals here are pretty good too. I think they're performed in a very innocent manner and complements the sound of the track very well. The outro has some pretty cutesy vocals with some light electronics that lead right into the next track. Overall, I thought it was another great track. The fourth track goes from the minimal outro of the previous song into a more rock tinged instrumental with some synthesizers in the background, with some very powerful vocals as well. I think the song halfway in straight up sounds like a mix of indie rock and techno. There's like a large jittery passage that happens that kind of constructs the song in a brand new manner. It makes it super fun, especially at the outro, where it just straight up throws everything it can at you before setting up the groove for the next track. Uh, this is a great track. The fifth track starts off with some minimal electronic sounds before transitioning to more soft acoustics, and it incorporates a woodwind melody in the background as well. There's some very soft electronic textures as well. The vocals are performed in seemingly different perspectives, going from like a childlike singing to a more intimate performance 2 minutes in. The song transitions into like a house track, but it also retains the elements of the soft rock and woodman elements while also revamping itself halfway in. The vocals later on in the track also give me like a Street Fighter familiarity, sounding like Chun Li or Sakura. And the outro concludes this phase of the song and moves into a more like hard rock direction for like 3 seconds before leading into the next track. This one has more acoustic instrumentation accompanied by like a whistling melody. The vocals are very sweet and adolescence-like. The track slowly builds up into more of like an electroacoustic song with some acoustic shredding, backed with like manipulated electronics and some very kinetic drums as well. The outro has a nice sing-songy vocal melody amongst the instrumentation, and overall, it's a very short, not short, but it's a very sweet track. The vocals open up in a pretty weird fashion. There's like some mild yelling with glitchy sounds in the back going, and the bass guitar riff is pretty brief, but it's also very soothing, and it transitions into like a beachy pop rock song with the guitars being more prominent. The vocal melody here is infused with the groove of the track, so it's very catchy and fun to listen to. And the outro kind of continues the groove of the track with more firm guitar breaks. Coming off that track, this one starts off with a grand sound to it with some peppy electronic textures. Sounds like the grand opening of like a circus or a festival. And the vocals here are kind of performed in a very slurry fashion, but then they become more endearing as the track begins to shift instrumentally. The song halfway through then opens up, and receives some vocal variety among the bright and colorful instrumentation. Instrumentally, the track then includes more techno elements like with a funky guitar riff, and the outro slows the tempo quite a bit with some more bubbly sounds and more bird samples. Coming off that pretty bright and colorful track, this one has more of a lonely cavern kind of vibe, kind of like the ice caves from Super Mario Odyssey, with these like echoey and desolate electronics in the background, while the mantra is being performed once again with some more nature samples in the background. Some of it sounds like crickets, I'm pretty sure. And the vocals are kind of angelic. They kind of shine a light in this mysterious atmosphere, which I think is pretty cool. And the song picks up halfway with a more engaging vocal melody with some more keys in the background, and the song sustains this groove and this atmosphere for about the entirety of the 6 minutes, and ends up being a very calming experience. The outro ends with some improvisational drums, with what sounds like an errant synth in the background that leads right into the next track. The outro of the previous track is the main groove here, aided with some dreamy textures in the background, kind of reminiscent of like ambient music or vaporwave. Guitars and some more nature samples incorporate themselves into the song as well, and the vocal melody is pretty great and has a lot of peppiness to it, so like it instantly catches your ear. And towards the back end of the track, it starts transitioning into more of an upbeat kind of song, which includes the woodwind melody, I think from the fifth track, and what sounds like a plushie as well. This one has more of an electronical tinged instrumental to it, with some very heavily vocoded vocals used in the backing instrumentation. It's kind of like a semi vaporwave vibe mixed with some club music. It sounds like something that would fit in snugly with like the latest Blade Runner movie, if Ryan Gosling went into a club instead of being depressed the entire movie. And the woodwind returns for its third installment on the album. It actually fits very snugly here as well. There's a lot of fluttering elements to the track I enjoy as well, and the refrain has a pretty good like group like quality to it. Sounds like a choir singer singing it, even though it's not mixed that well. And past the halfway point, the song becomes a bit more open and in terms of its atmosphere, with some sonar sounds as well. And the outro has some small guitar licks that lead right into the next track. Right out the gate, this one starts with some pretty rapid drum machines, numerous amounts of vocalizations, just basically throwing a lot at you. And even amidst all this chaos, there's a nice bounce and rhythm to it. The song then transitions into like a bright indie rock song, like a J rock song, and the vocal melody is super sweet, along with a very very kind and gentle performance as well. The song stays consistent in this sonic adventure until the outro where the ominous percussion kind of comes into play. It sounds like hydraulics before it ends with one last appearance of the thematic mantra, which wraps this album up pretty nicely. Overall, on my first listen, I was pretty heads over heels for this album. I love the ideas, the sonic play, how various amounts of sound was reused in the album with different or sonic contexts around them, giving this album a nice sense of dynamicism that I really appreciate. Though there was a language barrier, I never really worried about it. I felt like the sound alone was just enough to carry me. I like the ideas once again. However, I think on my second listen, I kind of noticed that the album has a weird issue of just being very long winded. Like, don't get me wrong, I still like all the tracks. I wouldn't change the ratings at all. But it it does feel like some of the ideas just hover around a bit too long, and in terms of replay value, it kind of bogs it down just a little bit for me, not too much. But overall, it was a very refreshing detour from what I usually listen to, and I'm glad I gave this album a shot. It's one of my favorites of the year, and I still can't get some of the songs out of my head. And overall, I'd give this one a 9 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching my crappy video. Did you guys like the album? Did you hate it? Did you not listen to it? What would you rate it? And once again, just thank you. If you want me to listen to an album, or if you have an artist that you want to recommend me, leave it down in the comments. Follow me on Twitter, and like and subscribe if you like my content. If you don't like my content, please leave some constructive criticism as what I can improve. Thank you.